Sim update number 1 has just landed in Flight Simulator 2024 and Simulator number 2 beta has already taken off. In this video we're going to look at the release notes of the first beta. Let's roll the intro and then let's go to the details. So Sim update number 2 beta has been released a few hours ago. It will bump up the version of Flight Simulator to version 1.4.7.0. The first thing we're seeing is that there is a new memory logging option, which is, say, in the beta build, but they also mentioned that they will remove it from the eventual build. This is to collect some additional telemetry data, but will have a performance impact specifically during menu transitions. On the Xbox, you need to make sure that you switch on the setting by going to the system settings and then switch on the allow optional data collection. For PC, that's not needed based on this information. Then there are some changes in the career and challenge league in Sim update number 2 beta. Normally, I would say both the leagues go in parallel, right? Both the live build, which means the official version of Flight Simulator 2024, and the beta build will, let's say, go in parallel. But in this case, they kind of separated those leadership boards. So the live build is a different one compared to the flighting build. I do think that it might have to do with some changes which are gonna, let's say, apply. I'm not sure which changes, and that's why they separated these dashboards, but keep that in mind, right? So all the career specializations will be unlocked by default in the flighting build to allow participants to preview changes that might be not be available in the live build. So this also means that you likely can try out anything in the beta build based on this note. Then there's of course the FAQ, right? The frequently asked question. Read this carefully, right? I saw a lot of people complaining when Asobo decided to release or accidentally released a version of the platform update, which caused some mess, especially with removing settings and all kind of other stuff, resulting in some cases that Flight Simulator 2024 even didn't start for all Sim update number 1 beta participants. If you don't want to face those issues, then please don't join the beta, because the beta is challenging and it could cause these issues. So read this carefully, the FAQ, and then think about it, I would say 2 or 3 times, and then decide if you want to join. That's enough. Let's now continue with what has been fixed, but also some new stuff. So first of all, there are some changes, right? Renamed the gyro drift is now the gyro drift compensation to be more in line with other assistants on less realistic of more realistic. So it looks like an assistant options. And it's now also possible to filter the seaplane base airports using the world map. So on the world map, it was not possible to filter on seaplanes only, but likely using this option, it will be available. Then they added some options to the variables, the SimVar throttle input block by lower upper bounds to signal the game that we should show the notification to warn the user an input to the throttle has been made, but didn't actually move the throttle because the leveler is locked in the active range. This is likely to inform the user that the controller doesn't work 100% correctly, so I'd say that's kind of nice that they will have added this functionality. Then there's a validation process, which has been developed to give more control to the aircraft developer over the career compatibility, right? Because the aircraft developer can develop their aircrafts, but based on that, it could still be that they are not part of the career. So this also brings up some nice topic that they might open the career, I would say, option for all aircrafts. So let's see if that happens. And then there's a new field which has been added in the FLT Sim section in the targeted specializations, supported by the Sim Object Editor, to list the expected specialization which the aircraft should be compatible. And this has to do again likely with this one, because it looks like that they're opening the doors a little bit wider to use different aircrafts in different missions. Right, they also mentioned that during the ingestion process, the field will be compared to the result of the career compatibility process to confirm its result. And this field must be filled to be compatible with career. So this is really important. They put it in capitals, which means it's really important. Then going to the fixes. First of all, there's the stability and performance. And as you can see, there are a lot of fixes there. A lot of crashes, right, which caused, I would say, an exit on the video render, but also crashes related to the input when exiting the sim. Infinite loadings on boot due to the deadlocks inside the I/O code, but also an interesting thing where they added more information to debug the FPS panel, right? The FPS panel is a special panel which you can activate if you're in the developer mode, which shows you some information like, for example, the VRAM usage, but also the long and lang and altitude, the GPU, and it also makes it easier to diagnose issues reported by users having screenshots in forums. So this is likely to, let's say, fine-tune the performance or improve the performance, but also to detect issues. Then there are several issues caused on several airport generations, which has been fixed, but also to reduce the memory usage of the aircraft gouges generated by the WASM. And that specifically is for the Xbox, because the Xbox was, let's say, having more issues with that. And also this one, right, really specifically for the Xbox, when suspending the sim on the Xbox, right, which you could do, which would make also the sim start faster, that would cause some issues because the memory would, I would say, increase continuously until it crashed. Then there are also some other things like internet connection fixes, right? Here you can see the latency with HTTP requests. So latency is simply the time it takes from A to B. And they also fixed an issue where an internet disconnection could happen, which resulted in a crash. That's likely due to the fact that Sim Update, or Flight Simulator 2024, I should say, it has a heavy dependency on the internet, as we all know. Then other things. Rapidly switching between tabs in the settings menu could lead to unexpected crashes. They also say that they improved the loading times for packages with a lot of individual files, a lot of small files, they mean with that. That has improved. Besides that, there also are some other fixes, but I would say this is a pretty interesting list already. Then let's go to the general bug fixes. So the general bug fixes, first of all, they added a footstep when walking as avatar, right? That's good. But they also fixed several things like the content XML, which was, I would say, continuously duplicated. And they fixed the quit to desktop button. Not sure what they fixed. Maybe it didn't work. Not sure. Then besides that, they fixed the arrow keys not doing anything, incorrect loading of the aircraft line codes, a number formatting not correctly, some VR fixes, because that's what they promised, right? Sim Update number 2 will contain a lot of VR fixes. So likely this is, I would say, just the start of it. Then they also added some navigation missing entries in the logbook, right? The logbook keeps track of where you were and also say which entries you visited. And that's not being fixed, as well as not scrolling when hovering on the gamepad, reverse notification order, swapping options category could lead to superimposed categories, tarmac workers sometimes overlapping on the apron, avatar and shadow disappearing, cabin service always reloaded. A lot of fixes, to be honest, including fixes for the drone, right? The speed being FPS dependent, too large aircraft templates or nameplates when zooming in, and a lot of other things, right? This list is, I would say, as you can see, is extremely long, and I won't go to all the details because then we're here, I'd say, until tomorrow likely, because this category is, in this case, really enormous. There are also some specific fixes, however, for Flight Simulator 2020 packages, as you can see, right? So improved normal textures from Flight Simulator 2020 packages, making them look less flat. And there was another one, I think a little bit more here, where they fixed the legacy 2020 stats were not present when hovering them in the aircraft selector. So a lot of cool fixes. As mentioned, I will not go to all of them. But it looks like that they're taking it seriously, and let's say that's good to see. Then there's also a specific backward compatibility bug fixes list, specifically for fixing missing the pilot and co-pilot, but also the lagged animation for 2020 packages, and they forced 2020 SimVar, the ambient light sensor, to return a very high value if requested. This one, I would say, continues to be an issue, right? Because we also saw it in Sim Update number 1 that this was fixed. So likely there, it's still not 100% okay based on what they mention here. Because also the fixed massive brightness, that one was also 100% part of Sim Update number 1. Then the aircraft specific things. This is more for the generic aircraft, right? You can see tooltips missing, highlights for elements in the showcase camera missing. They removed the tooltips in the showcase camera when using the mouse. Propellers now project dust, snow and water in the other direction when they are in reverse mode. Cool. So this, I would say, is kind of a new functionality. But they also fixed some other things like the animation breaker in the 330. I also saw some fixes for the C172, the fixed fuel selector not good in good position when Ctrl E to start the aircraft. Quick trims in helicopters, registration numbers fixed, cockpit interior fixed, occurred leaks, right, which means that you can see the outside color inside. And also a lot of camera fixes because the cameras were not correctly configured. Besides that, what's being fixed more? Well, you can see this list is again enormous, right? You can see a lot of avatar fixes, but also the passive aircraft being either in the ground or above. It's fixed when precise tweaking done. That's what I also saw, right? Sometimes you see the aircraft, which is, let's say, the one which you're not flying with, is a little bit above the ground and not standing on the ground. And I also made some fixes to, for example, the aircraft pink textures, but also to the Boeing house liveries, which are now, I would say, updated because there were some small errors in it. Good thing also is that the windshield rain effect on the HUD display is now fixed. I already saw it, I would say, it was pretty nice in Flight Simulator 2020 for Beta 1. So let's see how they improved it. Then we come to the selection of the aircraft specific fixes, the Air Tractor AT802. This one, it contains a lot of issues, it contained a lot of issues, but based on this, they fixed several things, right? For example, they fixed the navigation systems, but also the trim indicators fixed. And also an issue where the AT802 caused the spray pump not being displayed, some EFB settings which were overwritten, and also the ground light display on the agricultural version has been fixed. So a lot of interesting things for the AT802. Then helicopters, also a lot of fixes, especially the H125. They improved the effect likely should be on instruments at night. They added new dirt lots, which means that you can see the dirt. They fixed the propeller stopwatch dial. They added new interactions to the stopwatch knob. And they tuned the main rotor and tail rotor to fix the NR in auto rotation. Besides that, there are some small fixes for lightning, fuel consumption, the PFD screen, and some minor bug fixes, which could be anything. Continuing with the industry's Skyship 600. This one, also a lot of fixes. So the developers of the aircraft did a lot of good things. So they fixed the gear compression, LOD issues, interior minor LOD issues, standing passengers, oil pressure warnings were not working correctly, general warning lights not working correctly. Then the GNS 430 work when starting in cold and dark has now been fixed. Added the DC screen. So a lot of cool things. And they also made some things working, right? Or at least mark them as not working. For example, the GPS buttons work like switches and mark them in-up, as well as the vector supply buttons work as switches and mark them in-up. Improved the stability also of this aircraft, which is cool. Then the 737 MAX 8, also a lot of fixes. Transponder codes not receiving inputs. Added a livery. So there's a new livery for the Sun Express on the 737. A new livery, good for you. Debugged the livery Korean Air on 737 and debugged commercial static 03 on 737. Not sure what these kind of things are. If these are new versions or something else, I'm not sure. It's a little bit weird. Also, they corrected the name of the Sun Express livery for the aircraft selection. It's kind of weird that they fixed it and here they added it, but hey, that's how it is. Then they fixed some issues with the, let's say, alerts which you get with warning playing in cold and dark, and the altitude knob animation was not 100% perfect. GPU issues, not turning on the plane when battery is off, and the avionics sounds playing sound at the wrong time. Well, very nice. Besides that, did they include anything else which is really interesting? Well, first of all, the LNAV and VNAV armed indicators are now really showing the correct, I would say, position, right, if they're on or off. And there was some issues with the 737 which prevented the DI system not to work correctly. So also pretty, let's say, interesting fixes for the 737. Then going to the FA-18E Super Hornet. First of all, they improved the tooltips, but they also added a few probe extension cockpit controls. They removed the exterior pre-flight interaction. Not sure what this means, but it looks like they add something. And they also fixed some position of the lightning not correctly. Say an issue with the right gear pin interaction collision box. And then some VFX, so visual effects being fixed. Increase the fly-by-wire high-speed roll rate scaler to roll rate at Mach 0.9. And also some pre-flight interaction sounds, some sounds when you're doing the pre-flight checks. Besides that, also improved tooltips to the sensor control joystick. And some lightning improvements, as well as an avionic circuits to be always on. So cool things. Then the Skyhawk 172, right? Also interesting. They added a fix which caused the classic cargo and aerial add a variation to be indicating they used the G1000 avionics. Well, they were not. That's being fixed. They linked the deliveries to the presets, and they adjusted the FLT potentiometer values to improve night spawn visibility. Besides that, they added some missing entries to the for the EFB for the skydiving variation. Then jumping to the G1000, which is a different one. Likely you will see some similar fixes to the previous one, but they added something really interesting, the dirt layer, and fixed the rain direction scale on all fuselage pieces. And they also fixed the float variants with gear lights turned on in cool and dark departure. Besides that, some camera fixes, some dirt layers being added as already discussed, but also some nice things like the engine friction to correct the propeller behavior when stopping the engine, and behavior of the lighting knobs on the G1000, which in VR used both horizontal movement and rotation. So also again a VR fix. And several other fixes related to the float version, but also the wheels. Then the 208B Grand Caravan EX. Again, this one also a lot of lighting issues. Also, they fixed the dirt effects. They added the seatbelt in the cabin for passengers, so something new. What did they do else? They fixed the medevac livery color schemes, which were incorrect. The seatbelts randomly stretching in mid-air, co-pilot sun visor, bed animation start. They added the G1000 version without the heading knob. So they added the G1000, but without the heading knob. Okay, interesting. A lot of fixes over here with the panel screws being identically rotated. So they really are going very, very close, right? Because I would say, to be honest, I didn't even see that those screws were not 100% correct. And then the virtual reality laser pointer is not focusing on the panel. And again, they fixed the yoke not handling by VR controllers. So again, some VR issues being fixed in this one. Then the Cup Crafters X Cup, also a lot of fixes from strobes not correctly, lightning missing, add the laser system on the wings for float variations. They fixed the frost, they disabled the invisible chocks, and they removed the livery which with flags being too visible. Wonder if this one comes back in that case. The Evelyn Canada CL415. So they fixed the glide slope indicator that was inverted at ADF2, which was not showing on the compass. And they fixed the fuse glass door opening always by default, wrong values in the displays, issue on the livery freelance and livery adaptive. Some dirt and frost has been added, which is cool. So nice fixes for that aircraft. Then the DG1000E. Also a lot of fixes. Audio, see fire test buttons which were not working correctly. The engine and propeller max RPM and power to match the real aircraft data. Tooltips which were not 100% correctly. And the LEDs issues on the canopy, window and speed brakes. So a lot of fixes. Not only graphical but also to the system or to the systems in the aircraft. Then the DA62. There's a new model and textures for the DA62 camera. That's new. But what's other new? Well, they added seatbelt packs in DA62. They also, and packs as passengers. the alternate static in the DA62 and the windows in the DA62 as well as the pedals. And they also fixed a lot of coloring issues, right? Coloring issues, propeller issues, animation issues. They also added sun visors, some new screws. So if you were waiting for new screws for this aircraft, then they're now there. They fixed some artworks. They added a detail map of the ladder hole, fixed missing feathering on LOD 3 and 6. And they added new screws, which they already mentioned previously. So again, dirt, lightning, and some aircraft fixes. What did they do for the E330 LT? The ELT alarm sound has been fixed, as well as they added some interactions, but they removed the G3X lower mini soft key tips, so be aware of that. Besides that, they will fix some issues with the tail wheel and strut wear status to be checked, which was a bug. Then the Gumbo Cabri G2, the other helicopter, also a lot of LOD fixes, system fixes with the variometer, LOD issue fixes, the EFB aircraft size category too small, that's what they changed. Some color changes, and they fixed the livery static 1 LOD issue, and they added the flight seeing 15 adaptive. Not sure what that is. Maybe it's a new livery, not 100% clear. Then the Hard Aerospace ES30, also tons of fixes, right? They added a lot of things, as you can see, because that's the added category. So new cameras, new interactions, new propellers, new fuselage, but they also fixed a lot of things like the landing light, the interior light, the taxi light, the UI parameters which are not correctly, and also a bug that could cause faulty spawn on the aircraft in the hangar screen before a mission. That's all being fixed for this one. Then the hot air balloon, yes, that one also contains some issues. The fuel gauges incorrectly, indications, position of the fuselage in the flight model was not correct. So nice things for that one also. And the same thing is also for the Fly-Do air balloon. I would say almost similar fixes, fuel spray effect added, battery capacity is now there, added minor improvements to the flight model. So cool things. Then we're at the aircraft core systems. So we talked about all the aircraft fixes, which was, I would say, a pretty long list again. And I do think that they will add more fixes in the coming builds, so let's see. So let's now jump to the aircraft core systems. First of all, the electricity systems. Quick access windows upgrade. So they added a power setting column in the circuit section. They added some text. They improved the column's readability for the aircraft, or for the aircraft systems. The electricity systems. But they also add some new parameters, right? The system will ignore other based on frequencies, such as the frequency phase and other kind of things. Not go into too much detail with that. Then they also fixed some issues with the panel light and the landing light to be linked on the aircraft, and also link state buttons on the relay quick access window not working in some cases. There's also some debug window fixes. I'm not sure why they call it debug window fixes. Maybe they add something which makes it easier to, let's say, figure out some issues. Likely that's the case. And they also add some more things like, circuit type filter and circuits quick access debug, fix of suppliers loading sharing issue, add some information in the debug quick access window. Yeah, so the debug window is really for developers based on the description. So not really for us as, would say, normal flight simmers. Besides that, they also improved or fixed the load sharing issues with the batteries, as well as the external power not outputting any tension when on the AC type. Then failure, wear and tear. Also some fixes. First of all, they fixed the brakes efficiency on general aviation when brakes are weak, and they disabled the wear and tear shock width when turbine engine went over 100 RPM. Torque is used for turbines instead. Okay. Fuel system. There was an issue which caused the lines after junctions to ignore fuel flow settings. Kind of critical. And the pneumatic and ECS systems, they fixed the temperature SimVar access, which is likely used to communicate with external systems, as well as they added the managed areas to pack definition. This is really, I would say, only for developers, and likely you will see the effect if it doesn't work. But I would say, other than that, it's nice to know. Then the glass cockpits. They fixed some things with screens, the checklist, and the sound functionality not working 100% correct. And they fixed also an issue that caused a touch-enabled glass cockpits to be inoperative when in a model behavior interaction was behind the screen. Okay. Is there more? Yes, again, an XML which developers can use to add the ability to reference the voltage value in a panel XML. Then the G1000 NXI, they fixed the range plus minus inversion, and for the G1000 itself, they added the outer knob animation, which wasn't always correct, but it didn't simply work. And as well as the audio panel, they fixed the LED LOTs disappearing too quickly with the distance. Circles instead of plain icons on the MFD. This one was 100% also on the fixed list of sim update number 1, so I'm not sure why it's in here, but hey, let's see. GNS 430 and 530, the modified range button interaction to split zoom in and out is being fixed, as well as for the LX 9070, a broken UI when flying the DG 1001. Then physics. What did they fix there? Turbulence systems that were generating aggressive turbulence, as well as several aerodynamics, the backwards compatibility issues with drag. And the first one is the front friction formula of water to account for local relative speed. So nice. Flight systems, did they fix something there? Well, for flight planning they fixed something. They adjusted the segment following the first point of the lag after takeoff, right, the blue ribbon, allowing airliners to reach a clean speed before resuming the climb. So likely there's a change in the, I would say, how the aircraft climbs. And they also added the flight planning edition was locked after doing a medevac mission. I'm also pretty sure that this was, I would say, somewhere mentioned in the release notes of sim update number 1, but let's see. Then the aircraft engines, also some fixes. For the piston engine, in this case, they fixed an issue that prevented props of the piston-based aircraft from auto-feathering, despite setting the required CFG perms. Then the EFB. EFB, electronic flight bag, also a lot of fixes. Besides the fixes, also new things like they added the aircraft size category. What did they add more? A scroll on hover on any too long load item in the title in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. And they added informative message when no checkpoints are available within a checklist in the aircraft app. Besides that, there are a lot of fixes, right? If we go back to the top, collision size of the hide button, empty mass that was not shown, issue which caused the liquid tank setting from the EFB set while in the world map to be ignored. They added a new battery display, new one, and they also fixed the pilot books hours display. So a lot of fixes over here. We will have a look later in this video to one of or to a few of those issues or fixes where they added some new functionality. Then the Minimap. First of all, they added the ability to display fauna heat maps on the EFB, doing world photographer missions. Fixed the heading value, and they fixed also the aircraft thumbnail background not being transparent in the aircraft app main menu, as well as the mission layer being cropped in other resolutions than 1920 by 1080. Aircraft text specifically, HUD projection is fixed, and then there's a new camera definition. This is really for developers, likely you will not use it. Then they also made a lot of model behavior changes. First of all, they fixed a lot, and based on the, I would say, quick scan on this list, they didn't add too much. Besides, they added the toggle to the interaction model in the behavior viewer and the hold to stay in momentary position. That's also being new. Besides that, they fixed some issues. For example, the fixed issue that caused some aircraft's turning coordinator to make instantly from minus to max. Caused nodes to link to an Asobo GT interaction, no interaction template. Frequency presets were no longer functioning. Frequency presets parsing from crashing to the build package process. So besides, I would say, the fixes which are, I'd say, not visible for you, more for developers, also some fixes for you which you would definitely could benefit from. Then the modular aircraft, yeah, some fixes for that, but that's all has to do with, say, the developers, right? The developers which can use these parameters and that so that we as simmers can benefit from them. The aircraft gameplay. Are there some fixes there? Right, multifates when spawning LB plus B. That's for the Xbox controllers. And it added the check not to go outside of the aircraft if it's moving too much. So it's also pretty important. Besides that, they fixed the default position for the spawn exterior, now calculated with the airport size when not edited. Checklist, some small fixes, not resetting when changing to an aircraft, and an empty clue incorrectly showing up as an error, and the relative path functional when used in the include checkpoint library. This again likely is a developer thing. The external HUD, they fixed the vertical speed value that could rise to infinite on long frames. Interesting. Pre-flight fixes. Also, we've got that now with Flight Simulator 2024, right? They had the link between the avatars and the aircraft inputs to be able to quick finish pre-flight as avatar. They fixed the remove before flight material that was very dark. And they added some interaction between the pre-flight, simple pre-flight interaction and interior XML to handle interior interactions as avatar. This again, and this one also, all has to do with developers based on what I see. Then we've got the passive aircrafts. And the passive aircrafts are simply the static aircrafts. So what did they fix? Well, a lot, right? They removed some of the pink colors on the P2008 and P2010. They fixed the ICAOs for these airliners, a lot of them. They also added some passive aircraft to be visible as parked aircraft. So there are more types of aircraft which they now have added as passive aircraft. That's really cool. Hopefully they're good, right? And they fixed the Condor air liveries for multiple aircraft. So Condor Airlines has now been fixed, as well as the LODs on several passive aircraft have been fixed. New liveries for several aircraft, the A330-300, the 200 and the 900, for multiple airliners, including Condor Airlines, Discover, Korean Air, Malaysia Airlines, plus they added the Korean Air livery for the Boeing 747-8 India passive aircraft. Then for a large number of aircrafts, they added some optional missing information on several passive aircraft flight model CFG files. Malaysia Airlines, the wingtips orientation was not correct, that's fixed, as well as several visual improvements, going from the parallax hublots, registration numbers, propellers not being correctly in, I would say in this case, the Citation Mustang, but also several other fixes, I would say kind of same. Besides, I would say they correct the LODs, which was not here. No, it was not here. They fixed it on all these aircraft, right? So a lot of improvements for the static aircrafts, which will make it much more realistic. And you can see that this list is also, I would say, extremely long. I will scroll until I found the next one, which is the vehicles, right? A lot of cool fixes for the static aircrafts. That's the conclusion. The vehicles, they also fixed some issues with, they added the lights to the Dreamlifter freight loader. The LOD issues for the truck utility was fixed, and many vehicle bugs to improve the LODs and behaviors, as well as the passive bus model livery on the LOD fixes. So a lot of LOD fixes for the vehicles. Then the career mode. Well, also this list is, say, pretty long. They also added some things, but they also fixed some things, right? So they fixed the translations which were incorrect. They added a pop-up to indicate when a new headquarter is unlocked, also interesting. And they also added mission filters to difficulty and specialization. So you can now filter on, let's say, difficulty and specialization. They added a pop-up on the disabled button, create a company, when trying to create a company for specialization that you haven't played the Cradle. The credits earned is now being displayed on the briefing, and they added numbers to the aircraft components with the same name in the aircraft management screen. Is there something else which is really interesting? Reminder of the aircraft name. They added the proper text for the technician in the aircraft management screen, the fuel management on the employee missions, changed the embedding aircraft mission failure to simple notification displaying into input to go to the aircraft. Yeah, and a lot of pop-ups which they have added. So some improvements. General bug fixes. Again, this is a long list, right? I won't go to all of them. It's a lot of fixes, mainly due to server error occurring when playing on the mission, likely due to that internet fix which we saw earlier. Issues where you couldn't, which could occur when suspending the game and then, returning to the game. Weather layers not being correctly shown, wrong aircraft being displayed, reset career not disabled. A lot of things, right? I think there's a commonality between this one and the issues discussed or fixes discussed earlier. So long list. Missions, also a lot of fixes there. Are there interesting things over here? Let me scroll to it. They added some stuff, the RTC selection, depending on the aircraft wingspan, and they added the aviator performance for undesignated landing areas. But also a lot of fixes, as you saw while I was scrolling through the list. For example, Meals dialog playing twice, taxi ribbon assistance being locked in career mode. What did they do more? Initial climb validation when taking off from a helipad. And the parking announcement not scoring. So a lot of interesting things, mainly to improve the scoring also. So keep an eye on that, because you might, let's say, be scored, let's say, a little bit lower if you're not following the correct guidelines. But still nice. Then the aerial advertising. They added a step for the closing hook during banner retrieving phase. The aerial construction, the rotorcraft, they added a co-pilot and the missing dialogues. The firefighting, they fixed the Grono scoring and firefighting. The cargo transport hook. Several dialogue variations for the intro, cruise and cruise back. The familiarization flight. Step displayed a misleading binding, fixed an issue that were irrelevant while playing in VR, and also the visual assistance issues such as inability to control the flight path assistance. Flight seeing, landing feedback, medevac. We're talking now all about missions, right? That's, I would say, kind of clear. They fixed the step climb too, that did not disappear. And also an obsolete in-game marker displaying in some medevac missions, and as well as the mission flow not continuing when ATC was speaking at the same time as the medical crew. Again, I'm seeing things which are already fixed in the previous build, or they incorrectly posted that one, to be honest. It could also be. Search and rescue, also some nice things. They added some search area display in the pause menu. They also added the automatic detection when the player did not detect the target. Shrinking search area after a certain amount of research time, and the dialogue variations for incorrect victim detection, and some small fixes like wrong dialogues, rescue cinematic playing twice, rescue not entering the aircraft during hoist phase. So some interesting things. Then we've got the search and rescue hoist rotorcraft. Also a lot of fixes, visual fixes, but also things being added, like the visual feedback, step to show the rescuer proximity to the target, change the area detection, hoist actions to improve mission flow. So nice things. Skydive aviation. Back on track was when crashing during jump run, and the flight's planned decent rate is now being fixed. Continuing with the certifications. It's a long list, my friends. Again, a long list. Especially you would say, well, it would have been nice if they would have included it all in the initial build, right? That would have saved a lot of, I'd say, headaches for all of us. First of all, they fixed some issues when the scoring for the following flight plan was sometimes unfair. They added the taxi speeding aviator performance. Desired flow state, they fixed the flight plans in the EFB. The proximity to the flight plan scoring is being fixed. For the airline transport license or transport pilot license, they fixed issues where they were never promised to extend their gears. Fixed the full throttle step. For the commercial pilot license, they changed the landing flow to ask players to leave the runway before shutdown. IFR instrument rating, some issue fixes with the maximum score to respecting the flight plan altitudes, as well as they fixed the aviator performance, as well as an issue with the CDI. I'm pretty sure that this was already part of sim update number 1, but let's see, maybe it's part of sim update number 2 and they made an error posting release notes. Not sure. But let's go on. The jet transport airliner. Also some issues are fixed where the step maintain altitude 3000 feet was not validated, overspeeding issues, and the visual assistance to make them manageable from the settings menu. Multi-engine rating, also when you as a user would bind devices to engine 1 master, switch would fail the certification because the engine was restarted by the device. Pretty interesting. And then some other fixes for the hoist again. Right, so why didn't they combine it? I'm not sure. Other than that, right, let's jump a little bit because there are a lot of fixes as you can see on this list. If you go to the online services, there are also some fixes, right? So some error messages when the group is full, improve the multiplayer planes, position and movements, as well as the career title on the main menu would lock at after the end of the planned maintenance. And they fixed an issue where the French aircraft sometimes did not appear on the world map. The weather. The accessibility layer is being fixed, as well as an issue which resulted in incorrect meters were used instead of the meters for the currently selected time. That's with time shifting, right? You can do time shifting to change the weather, which could cause the meter not to be updated. And there was a rare crash that could occur when using the historic weather slider. Streaming, they moved the streamed packages to the installation path next to the community and official folders. That's also what we're going to have a look at. And then the world. Well, tons of issues, tons of fixes, mainly due to lightning, ground, other parts or trees being displayed incorrectly, POI integration not being shown correctly, optimized the dams, optimized loading issues with the Sahara, vegetation close to the Amboise Castle. So kind of cool. But again, saying it for the last time, this was already part of Simulator 1 also. So why is it now here, right? Not sure. Then for the airports, also a lot of fixes. Again, with jetway linkings not being connected to the jetways, airport lighting, strobe pole rotation, helipad start heading not being used for the departure, and sometimes they teleported to another helipad after they are seen in free flight mode. Also, the vegetation has a lot of updates. I won't go through all of them. There's so much. They fixed plans, they improved plans, they fixed the forest, fixed vegetation, they added crop types. So a lot of cool things. Going to the air traffic, they fixed a lot of things. For example, occupying the same parking spaces as in other aircraft. That also happened sometimes in Flight Simulator 2022. That has now been fixed. As well as the aircraft spawning on the player at gates and the aircraft taxiing in the air. Also really nice. And they also added the pilot and co-pilot and NPC planes and some AI traffic ships and aircraft not spawning correctly when using the offline traffic settings. The marine traffic, node count restriction for NPC boats. Likely they reduced the number of boats because there were sometimes too much. The road traffic, also some fixes with shuttle number 2 and 1. They improved a lot of things. And also the LOD switching has been improved, as well as the steering animation for bus and shuttles ground vehicles. So main fixes for the shuttles and the buses, as it looks like. Then the marketplace, it receives also an update. They added new info on the library items when unverified, currently incompatible or permanently incompatible. Okay, permanently incompatible sounds scary, but could be. And they fixed an issue for accessibility when we're going into the top right toolbar would not properly indicate the hints to go back in the input menu. Then for everyone who plays virtual reality, well, have fun, right? You can see that they removed or they fixed a lot of things. They also removed some things, the VR compatibility pop-up, but they also fixed a lot of issues. If this is, say, fix all the issues which you're currently experiencing, I would say I doubt. But at least it's, I would say, we're moving into a direction where they really start improving this part. I'm really curious if this really has improved. So if you're part of Sim Update number 2 beta, and if you're playing VR, then let me know by using the comment box below this video. Controls. And they also fixed some controls. Some of them were simply not working, like the cockpit view left, right, the cockpit preflight, and that has now been fixed. And that's sometimes only applicable when using, for example, the gamepad stick as well as the D-pad, and in some cases also when using the keyboard. So you might not be, I would say, hit by these issues, but it could be that I would say that you're hit. Also, there's some naming updates, like the throttle 1, 3, 4 cut full actions into throttle 1, 2, 3, 4 previous next detent. So keep in mind that they changed some labels. Hopefully they only changed the labels and hopefully they didn't screw up the inputs again. Then the peripherals, a lot of new input profiles. I would say you can see combat stick, the side stick, the pro pedals, the TCA yoke bowing, the Velocity 1 flight, yoke and quad for the PC, the Thrustmaster and the T16000 mic. But hopefully they're good. If you don't find these ones good, then have a look at my channel because I posted multiple videos about how to correct those controllers. But it looks like that there are some new things added. And also, of course, some various peripheral fixes, right? Where they inverted axis, where they or sometimes the keyboard 2020 default profile presets missing some actions, compatibility issues, troll sensitivity. So a lot of cool things which they have added to improve the controllers. New controls, also of course, they fixed the device axis feedback point not moving on the curve control per input action settings. Then going to the activities, the leaderboard only shows up to 10 items from time to time, subtitle scrolling speed, and the C28B value valve starting incorrectly closed on boost strips, as well as the typo in the descent 2, and then feed step has now been fixed. Training missions, also too much to go to, right? I think every mission almost gets an update, so I would say kind of an applaud. Would have been nice if this would have been part of the initial release. For the World Photographer mode, all some issues being fixed. And when Windows is in HDR, right? HDR mode is on, but option in the game is off. That's being fixed. Some fixes with the Dune du Pilotes detection in the landscapes of Europe World Photographer mode has been fixed, and also other things which have been improved. Preflight itself, some small fixes. I would say fix the spawn, fix an issue where the World Photographer and Preflight aircraft help page were showing. Lost selected their livery, saved in the local profile. Really nice. And then the travel book. Travel book, a lot of grammar issues, which you can see. Not to go to all of them. And they changed some, I would say, sensitivity things based on the descriptions. Audio also fixed. The Morse and marker sounds being triggered multiple times. They fixed some multiplayer Cabri G2 rotor sound. CL415 water splash sounds. Windmill sound added. Windsock sound added. So also new sounds. The character itself, fix the objects, fix the passengers, inside and outside, and sometimes being stuck, as well as the player character, multiple fix over there. So you can see that, I would say, for the first build, it's really, 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 really long, right? I think that this is, I would say, even larger as sim update number 1. But then your question might be how to get it. Well, first of all, make sure that you're reading the FAQ. After you read the FAQ, think 2 or 3 times, and then if you still want to continue, then do it. But be careful. You might hit some issues. You might lose some progress, etc. Be careful with that. With that said, let's show you how to do it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to open the Xbox Insider Hub. If you don't have that tool, you can install it by going to the store. Inside the store, you search for Xbox Insider Hub. Xbox Insider Hub. Where you will find the application, and you can simply install it by pressing install. And then once you've installed it, you can open it. You will use your Microsoft account to say participate. And that's the same one as you use for Flight Simulator. And then you go to previews. In the previews, available and joined. The available one contains the list of Flight Simulator 2024. But if you are, let's say, already joined, you can see it over here. If you want to leave at one point, you can press manage and then say leave the preview. As you can see, currently it has been updated. If you don't want to change anything, then escape and then end. Once you've done that, you joined the beta. You could restart the PC. I would do it because then you will likely get it a little bit faster. In my case, you can see that it has been updated already on the background. After you restart the PC, go to the store again, press check updates, and then make sure that Flight Simulator has been updated. Once you've done that, it's simply a matter of starting Flight Simulator 2024, and then it will start the game. Since, I would say, showing this will likely not add a lot of value, I will wait a few seconds to see if there is no pop-up for an update which it needs to install. And also I would say I will wait till it has launched, and then we will go to some changes which have been added in Flight Simulator 2024 based on the release notes of the game. Right, so again, this might take some time. So let's see. But in most cases you will see that this part doesn't require an update. In some cases it might. One thing which is every time happening is that we'll lose the graphic settings, which means the resolution if you're playing in a window or full screen. That happens every time, so be aware of that you need to reconfigure that very, very, very likely. It's already there since Flight Simulator 2020, so I don't expect that they would have fixed this. So we're gonna wait. Well, I will pause the recording and we'll start the recording once we're back. That might be better because looking at the black screen does make sense, right? So the game has started. Yes, the game has started. And you can always check if you're on the latest, I would say, version by pressing the release notes, where you would see the release notes which we just went to, right? So it's extremely long list. So let's go to the free flight mode because they said they made some changes to the map. And to see the change in the map, what you need to do is press this option. In this option, you can now, let's say, filter on multiple, I would say, kind of, let's say, airports. But you can see now that the seaplane base has been added here, right? So the seaplane base, if you would deselect everything and I would only select this one, you would be able to, let's say, filter out only the seaplane base, which was not possible according to Asobo previously. So that's really nice. Then the second part is the electronic flight bag, right? The electronic flight bag, they mentioned that they added some stuff. So let's have a look at it, right? So I think that most of the changes are here in this menu over here. Because they mentioned that they changed some things in the, I would say, in the aircraft. So let's go to the aircraft information. I don't see a lot of changes here, right? So maybe it's somewhere else. Flight performance then, in that case. We can see the mass, we can see this. I don't see a lot of changes here, to be honest. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't see a lot of change here. Maybe the total mass option. No. I thought that this one was already here, so I don't think that this is really new, to be honest. According to their release notes, there should be something with a new battery display in the electronic tab, in the electrical tab on the aircraft app mass and balance menu, right? And that's, I would say, if you go to the flight performance, then here you should have something about the battery. Maybe it's this part. No, it's center of gravity. Yeah, I don't see the battery, but hey, it might be me. Might be that we're not in a correct airplane, right? Because it might also be depending on the aircraft. But that's something which they mentioned that they have added. Also, they added an aircraft information page in the aircraft app, right? The aircraft information page. So let's see. Here we go back. Here's the aircraft information page. And this was the one we were just looking at, right? This contains some information about the cabin, the cruise speed, the max altitude and the range. Would also have been nice if they would have added the average fuel consumption, because that sometimes is required to plan your flights. So if we would change to a different aircraft, right? Let's change to, let's say, let's change to an aircraft. Which one? Let's say, which one shall we use? Well, let's see which one we're gonna select. Oh, let's select this one, right? And if we now go to escape and then go to the EFB again, you will see that it now has, let's say, a large cargo freighter, and the cruise speed has changed. So this is really nice. So you can have, let's say, a quick overview of what it is, what the aircraft is, what the weight is, etc., the cruise speed, now from a different menu. What is added more? I don't think I saw. Let me check for this one to see if it has the, oh, go wrong. Flight performance. There's also no battery thing, right? Maybe it's only when you're in the aircraft. I'm not sure. That could also be the case, of course, but it's not very clear from the description. But at least I would say they have now added this. Besides that, is what they also mentioned, that you now have the ability to, let's say, configure the or add the co-pilot. So this is a pilot, this is the co-pilot. So you can now say simply click it and then add the co-pilot. So also a new setting according to Asobo in this, let's say, new version of the electronic flight bag, which is part of Sim update number 2 beta. Did they add some other things? They said, okay, they added the aircraft size category, retrieved via the aircraft GS. So that's been collected. I'm not seeing that one over here, but I do think that they're referring to this option over here. Going back to this one over here, right? This is large cargo freighter. If you would select a small aircraft, let's select a small one, right? Let's select this one, for example. and go to the EFB again. Now it says cabin landing surface. So that's also strange, right? This one contains more. You can see that this one contains a few. And this is what you would love to see, right? This is what is really missing from the other aircrafts. So you can see that there's some work to do where some of the aircrafts have more information compared to other ones not having the information. So pretty interesting. Then the mass and balance menu, also no battery over here. So I do suspect that it really has to do with, say, going inside the aircraft and then, or really I would say using the aircraft and then you will be able to see it. Yeah, because this is all different, right? But I must say that I really like this at least to be available now. I would hope that they will add it to more aircrafts. Maybe we can check another one. Let's pick the 172, right? The Cessna. Go back, go to the EFB, and then go to the aviation. Yeah, this one now also contains the information. So it looks like for the smaller ones they have added it, but for the larger ones they didn't add it. And this is, I would say, I'm not sure if the value is correct, but this at least makes it pretty interesting. Also, the landing surface could be pretty handy if you're deciding if you which aircraft you want to use. So if you would likely choose this aircraft and change it to a different configuration, which you can of course do. Let's do that. We're gonna change it to amphibious, right? And then hit escape. Escape again. Then go to the EFB. You will now see that the, I would say, that has changed. But you can also see that there's still some errors, right? Because in this case, it doesn't show the seats. So there's some work to do. But I would say pretty nice that they have added this. So these were just a few fixes, right? Because there are more fixes in the aircraft specifically, but going to them one by one is a lot of work. And to be honest, would it add value? I would doubt. But there's one thing which I want to give with you. If you're joining the beta, then don't forget to do one thing. Go to the marketplace. Inside the marketplace, go to your settings menu, right? Because if you go to the settings menu in the library, which you can find over here, you will have the ability to change your default location. Please do that. Because if you don't do that and you're, I would say, again, being screwed because someone updates or screws the update and you decide to leave the update, you would need to reinstall the full simulator, including all the community updates. Well, if you move the community update to a different folder, then it works perfectly. With that said, there's that one fix which we didn't look at, and that's, or changed, which we didn't look at, right? That's that they also moved now the stream packages to this folder, right? So previously you could see it in a different one. Currently you can also see that the stream package is kind of populated, right? It's 2.66 gig, which is really nice. And that's also which they changed. And with this, we're at the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you all the things which I would love to show you because I would say Flight Simulator was loading pretty, I would say it took a pretty long time before it loaded the aircraft on the, let's say, aprons. But likely we will do that in a future video. So keep an eye on my channel and you will see a new video landing soon. Thanks for watching and see you back next time.